Hi folks, welcome back. It's Will here once again, back for another fight card prediction. We're back here for UFC Fight Night 86 from Zagreb, Croatia, as the heavyweights take centre stage as Big Ben Rothwell faces off with Junior Dos Santos in the main event. Overall, the card looks okay. A lot of newcomers into the UFC, which I like personally, gives me new tape to watch of people I've watched in the past. First and foremost, I would like you to please follow all the guys down below me. Brian, Kyle, my boy Daniel Levy, the podcast from the Parton Shot podcast, Severe MMA podcast, Arts Mixed Martial. It's just followed me, puts out great content as well. So please go and help those guys just by giving them views, giving them thumbs up. I'd like to thank all my new subscribers that I asked for from the last video. I got quite a lot out of that, so thank you very much, and I hope you keep on coming back. And we're going to get straight into this card. As I said, a lot of newcomers in here, which I've done a lot of research on, a lot of fights I've watched of them. And the first fight of the night is going to be in the welterweight division. It's Bojan Veljković against Alessio Di Chirico. Bojan Veljković. Now, I've watched this guy. I seen him before he was in the UFC. He was an RFA champion. I watched his fight when he won to get that title. He's a 13-3 record with 3 wins via TKO, 8 wins via submission, and 2 wins via decision. He fights out the Elevation Fight team. Previously, I think he's been at American Top Team. What I saw from him, he's a pretty low output striker. It doesn't really offer an awful lot on the feet, but he's got a good ground game. So that's where all his kind of meat and veg kind of comes from. Most of his wins are obviously via submission. Very nice clinch defense. Once he puts you up there, he's very good at stopping knees, stopping shots to the head. He's got some nice low kicks himself. That's probably one of his shining lights of his overall striking game, is his nice low kicks, nice knees in the clinch as well. Great control against the cage. He's a very, very strong, burly guy, well built, stocky guy. Sometimes he kind of overcommits and he loses position, and he does that sometimes from the clinch when he gets that little bit too aggressive, but usually gets it back quite quickly. As I said, he's a big 170 guy, extremely strong, has a fantastic motor, just keeps on going, and he kind of, once he gets you to the ground, he's all over you. He's hard to really get off you, but he does kind of show some iffy takedown defense. Alessio Di Chirico, 9-0 record, 4 wins via KO, 4 via sub, 1 via decision. Another very low output striker, so I don't think we're going to see an awful lot of striking output from these guys. He's very tenacious to get the takedowns. Looks for striking wise, he looks for his big overhand right a hell of a lot. He loses positions very easily as well, but gets it back quite easily too. Veljković is definitely going to have the strength advantage in this one. Good back control with a good ground and pound once he gets you down there, and when he's in control, he really does puts the pressure on a lot. Overall, decent ground game. I do give it to Veljković in that stand. Between the two fighters, I think he is slightly faster than Veljković, but I think the overall experience of the kind of Di Chirico's fought a lot of the guys I really haven't heard too much of. Veljković has faced better guys, better team. I'm going to go with Veljković. I think it's not going to be the greatest fight in the world, but decision for Veljković. Next up, we have in the heavyweight division, there's a lot of heavyweight fights on this card. Jared Cannonier against Cyril Lasker. We'll start with Cannonier. We haven't really seen too much of him. He's only had the one UFC fight. He came in and faced Sean Jordan and really didn't show an awful lot and got knocked out in the first round. Kind of most leg grappler, big kind of burly guy, but really there's not too much to be seen in this guy. Cyril Lasker, on the other hand, is another newcomer here. 7-1 record with 3 wins via KO, 3 wins via KO, 2 via sub, and 2 via decision. And he is the former EFC heavyweight champion, which is not saying an awful lot because Ruan Potts was that back in the day. But I do think this guy is better than Ruan Potts. He's got a boxing background. He's kind of reasonably technical, not great, but he has. You can see he does work on a lot of his techniques, but not overly great at them. He needs when he is striking, he needs his time and space and when he gets that, he has some really good power shots which he can get off fairly frequently. A really good power double. Once he goes for you and he drives straight forward, he will get you down, and he's very good when he's decent when he gets you down there. Tough guy to get off you. He has a good chin. He can take punishment, which he's shown in some of his fights I've watched from the UFC. Pretty well rounded with decent ground skills. As I said, extremely durable, but I do think he is a little undersized for the heavyweight division. I just think that Pokrajac might come out a little bit quicker, maybe get a few shots off. But I think Askar will come into this fight and he will use that grappling and that big power double to get him down there. Possibly a finish. I think this could go to decision, so I'm going to go Cyril Askar via unanimous decision. Next up, we have Robert Whiteford facing off against Lucas Martins. Now, Robert Whiteford, from my country of Scotland, not the biggest fan of him, I must admit. I think he is a good fighter, but I do think he blows his own trumpet a little bit too much. But he's coming off a big loss. He came off a huge win last summer, let's face it, in Glasgow. Knocked out Paul Redman with a beautiful shot. He has some big power in those hands. We've seen against Darren Elkins, completely out-grappled. Seemed like he just didn't really work too much on it. I know Elkins can probably do that to a lot of people in that featherweight division, but hopefully show improvements in this one. I don't think he's going to have to do that, because I think Martins will maybe stand and trade a little bit. He's definitely the more kind of versatile, dynamic kind of striker. He throws a lot of different techniques. But he's coming off a couple of losses himself. I mean, he got blasted out by Mairbek last time. He also lost to Darren Elkins. Very close fight, very back and forward fight. I could see Whiteford definitely finishing the fight. I could probably see Martins maybe getting the fight, maybe stopping the fight as well. I want to pick Robert Whiteford, but I'm not overly confident in him. I've been watching his videos working at ATT. His weight's on point. He's like 153 or 154 already, and we're like 10 days or so out from the event. I think I'm going to go Lucas Martins. I think it's going to be close, but I think Martins will get the decision victory. I can see a split here for Lucas Martins, so that will be my pick there. Moving on to the bantamweight division, Filip Pejic against Damian Stanciu. We'll start with the newcomer here, Filip Pejic. 10-1 record with 6 wins via KO, 3 via sub, 1 via decision. He's probably his best asset is definitely his hands. He is a little wild from his range. When he gets in tight and he lands and he lets his kind of hands go a little bit, he's actually kind of really decent. Does a decent job of throwing like nice tight sharp punches, which is weird because sometimes his movement's a little bit funky. So kind of interesting to see how that transitions like kind of against the better fighters here in the UFC. And the clinch, he really doesn't offer much, but kind of lean and grind on you, and just kind of looks to break off and throw strikes. Not much of a wrestler, does scramble fairly well. I do think he is definitely the better athlete than Stanciu, but I think that with Stanciu, he's got like an 8-1 record, or 8-3 record I should say, sorry. He's coming off a loss. I cannot remember off the top of my head who it was. I got a funny feeling it was a Brazilian, but he is a very decent wrestler and he's a grappler and he will keep going until he gets you down there. So that's why I think I'm just going to lean with Damian Stanciu in this one. I don't think Pejic has really faced anybody out in the regional scene to really kind of blast home about. So my pick is going to be another decision victory here. It's going to be Damian Stanciu via decision. Moving on, we have Ian Entwistle against Alejandro Perez. Ian Entwistle, this guy, I'm seeing a lot of people are kind of one-trick pony. I don't think that's fair. He does have really good leg locks, and if he catches you in it like he did last time, he nearly caught Dan Hooker in his UFC debut. Hooker just leveraged up and started raining down punches and just showed his toughness because he was cranking in that ankle and his ankle was nearly gone. Just kept pounding and got the victory. Anthony Pokrajac, he caught him and he just did not let go. On the feet, Entwistle doesn't really offer much, but he is decent when he goes to the ground, and a lot of people go on about his leg locks and stuff like that, and it is his main bread and butter move, but he does have a good ground game. Once he kind of gets your back, he's very good. He's got a lot of wins via rear naked choke. Alejandro Perez coming off that win over Scott Jorgensen, where Jorgensen fucked his ankle up pretty badly. Stopped that fight there. That fight should have been stopped well beforehand. Lost to Pat Williams before that. I think he won the Latino America. Tough Latino America. This is all about if Ian Entwistle, because we know what he's going to do. He's going to come out. He's just going to dive for a leg. And if he catches it and gets a good grip on it, this fight will be over. I don't see Perez getting out of it. But I see Alejandro Perez just managing to keep away from this. And I think the longer this fight goes, if this goes past 3-4 minutes of that first round, I think it's going to be all Alejandro Perez. And he could stop the fight here. So I'm going to go Alejandro Perez via TKO in round number 2. Moving on to the lightweight division, a fight I'm really looking forward to watching. Mairbek, Taisumov against Damir, Hadzovic. We'll start off with Taisumov. I mean, Taisumov is a guy, definitely a prospect in this lightweight division. A guy who I think he was supposed to fight back in January, but had visa problems to get into Boston and stuff. So, what's this guy all about? Striking. A very, very good striker. He's wins over Taihun Bang, Marcin Bandel, Anthony Cristodolo, Alan Patrick. Not guys who are overly great. Lost to Michel Pesares, which probably should have been a win, I think, on his side as well. I don't think he was very well for that fight, but he is a very dangerous striker with head kicks, and he will follow up with punches, but he has a really good grappling game as well and a good takedown defense game. If we're talking about Damir Hadzovic, it's a guy who I've known about for a long time, seen him over here, I think it was in Cage Warriors, 10-2 record with 5 wins via KO, 3 via sub and 2 via decision. Fights out at Rumble Sports in Denmark, out of Copenhagen. Mostly a kickboxer, keeps a wide base, uses good clean footwork to kind of stay at range, big power in both his hands and his kicks. Suited for aggressive kind of, he needs to be the attacker. He can't really, once he's going back, like Taisumov will probably come against him. He's not the greatest at doing that, so he needs to kind of lead from the front and be moving forward. As he tends to kind of get more comfortable and open up striking, he shows definitely a lot better technique, and he stays patient with that as well. Longer the fight goes, the better he looks. Very dangerous clinch games. Clinch game, I should say. Lots of knees, and he uses it from varying angles as well. He'll move around and he'll use those knees to attack different parts of the body. It has a solid ground and pound game once it goes to the ground. Isn't particularly clean in any of the grappling or wrestling techniques, but he does have some good takedown defense, which I think he will need in this fight. The way I kind of see this fight going, I don't think he has really got the kind of technical what's the word for it? Depth, maybe, of what Taisumov has to do. He's maybe never faced somebody with that technical depth, but he is very, very dangerous. I just don't think he's faced a striker kind of as capable as what Taisumov is. I don't think Taisumov will finish him. I think this could be a very fun fight, right enough. Like Hadzovic, but my pick will be Mairbek Taisumov via decision. Moving on, we have let me see, where are we? Nicholas Dalby against Zach Cummings. Fight I'm really looking forward to see, as I am a fan of Nicholas Dalby. I'm actually quite a fan of Zach Cummings as well, if I'm being honest. He fought at the higher weight classes and he's came down. Let's start with Nicholas Dalby. Former Cage Warriors champion. Let's talk about his last fight, because I was there in Dublin for that, and that was a fun fight. And Nicholas Dalby has the heart of a lion. Was down definitely 2 rounds. Could have got taken out against Darren Till, and then come back with a 10-8 round in round number 3. And I thought, I was kind of sat close with some of Darren Till's guys from Liverpool, and they were poo-pooing it big time. They thought he was going to get taken out in round number 3. He poured it all on the line, put him against the cage, hit him with some big shots, looked for the takedown. A decent kind of overall fighter. Good grappler, very tenacious, very hard-headed, like got an iron kind of will that always comes forward, never will give up, and he can hurt you with high kicks, as we've seen in previous fights as well. Zach Cummings, he's coming off that very quick finish over Dominic Steele. I think it was back in Chicago in July. Thought he had a great first round against Gunnar Nelson, won that one in my opinion before getting choked out. Very, very close fight, but I think... Oof. Oh, jeez. Close fight. I think Nicholas Dalby has just got... I think overall he's got a better gas tank. I think he will keep coming forward. He'll stay in your face. Has to watch out for the power of Cummings, because Cummings has got big power. And if he lands clean on the chin, Dalby could definitely go to sleep. My pick's going to be a split decision win for Nicholas Dalby, but it's going to be very, very close. But my pick will be Nicholas Dalby. Moving on to the women's strawweight division, we have Maryna Moroz against Cristina Stanciu. 5-0 record. We'll start with the newcomer here. Cristina Stanciu, I should probably say it. 5-0 record with 1 win via KO, 3 wins via sub, and 1 via decision. What I've seen out of Stanciu, it's actually quite a nice for the kind of women coming, and you see some nice kind of technique. She's a nice kind of evolving striking game for an MMA fighter. She's got a wushu background. I think she did that back in her days as a junior. She keeps a very low stance. Doesn't always set up her kicks very well. Is a wee bit open for that. But she does have a very good kind of a snapping front kick, which she can put a lot of power behind. She can put real power behind her head kicks when she wants to. Seems to have a lot of confidence in her striking offense, and I think she's got pretty good striking defense as well, but she does swing very wildly. But her defense actually makes up for. She can be wild because her defense is actually pretty good. She stops her oncoming opponents very, very well too. She's an active striker in the clinch when she gets up against there. She doesn't have a pretty ground game. Let's say that. She's very good on jumping in sub opportunities when she gets them, but she's not faced the caliber of what Maryna Moroz is, or anything kind of close to that. Not the best cardio either. She comes out and she will win the first round, but might be iffy in 2 and 3. Hopefully she's improved on that. Very, very aggressive, as I said. She has to be very careful in this fight because, as I say, we're talking about Maryna Moroz here. She leapt on the opportunity to submit Joanne Calderwood, but she set up with some nice boxing techniques beforehand. Went into the fight against Valerie Letourneau. Started off very well. I think she could have won that fight, but Letourneau's heart and grit and determination came through. The one thing I think Stanciu needs to really watch out for is with the aggressiveness of Stanciu, that Moroz will pull guard, and it kind of being Stanciu sometimes can be very overly aggressive and not being very developed on the ground, and although she has more wins via submission, I think that her aggressiveness could really put her in a position where she'll jump into maybe an armbar or probably a triangle. That's the one that she may jump into, being overly aggressive. I think I'm going to go with Stanciu in this one. I think she could probably chin Moroz as well, but she has to be careful once it goes to the ground. It will go to the ground at some point, I firmly believe. I think I'm going to go with a newcomer here. Something I've been thinking about between these two, but I'm going to go Stanciu via... I might actually go with a TKO victory in round number 3 if she can keep her cardio up. So I'm going to go Stanciu via 3rd round TKO. In fact, I'm going to change that decision because Letourneau couldn't finish her. Letourneau was tough. Next up, light heavyweight division. Not going to go into this too much. Igor Pokrajac against Jan Blachowitz. The only reason Igor, the Duke Pokrajac, is back in this card is that he has went out and he has faced Europe's cans, jobbers, low-level fighters per se, and I think he's won all of them via in the first round. You know, Taxarius was one of them, Pavlin was another one. Guys that I really haven't heard of, and he is from Croatia, so it's a reason why he's on here. But before that, he got knocked out badly by Pejic, knocked out by Pejic, and then by Fejau before that, and he lost a decision to Ryan Jimmel. His last UFC win, I think, was... maybe actually lost to Beltran, and it was a no contest if I remember right. Jan Blachowicz, on the other hand, he's a guy who I think he's got a little bit to prove here. His last showing was not great. He came into the UFC with a lot of buzz, and he kind of did the business over Ilir Latifi. Since then, got kind of out-grappled by Jimmy Manuwa, which is not a great sign. Corey Anderson did the exact same in Vegas. He gassed out pretty badly in that one. This is a win for Jan Blachowicz. If he can't win this fight, he has no reason to be in the UFC whatsoever. My win will be TKO victory for Jan Blachowitz in round number 1. Heavyweight division, we've got Timothy Johnson against Marcin Tybura. I've been looking forward to seeing Marcin Tybura in the UFC. We'll start off with Timothy Johnson, a guy who came into the UFC with a TKO victory over Shamal Abdurakhimov. I thought he gave a good performance against Jared Rosholt and had potential to win that fight, but Rosholt's overall grappling really kind of came to the fore later in that fight when Timothy Johnson gassed. Not overly great in the feet, but does have power. We'll go on to the newcomer here in Marcin Tybura. This is the guy I've watched for a long time and wanted in the UFC for a long time. 13-1 record, 5 wins via KO TKO, 6 wins via submission, 2 by decision, with his only loss coming to Stephen Puetz via a doctor stoppage after he got a pretty bad cut. Mostly a grappler. Kind of the best way to describe his striking is functional enough to get by. He moves pretty lightly for a big guy. I mean, he's like 6'3". I think he tops the scales at maybe 240, 250. Most of his work on his feet is centered around his like quick leg kicks and his big looping hooking punches. At times can rattle off some decent kickboxing combinations when he wants to. Don't really see an awful lot of that. Decent enough defensively when he's at range, but can be over-reliant on his chin that he has, because he does have a very good chin. But the main goal for Marcin Tybura is pretty much the same. Get the clinch. He can lock you down, pretty much. It's like the body lock, that's the word I'm thinking of. Body lock, get the takedown, and he has a pretty basic wrestling game and kind of looks for his jiu-jitsu. I think he's a brown belt, but he has an unrelenting trip and drag game. If he gets a hold of you, you're going down, you're not staying up with this guy. He's very, very effective with it. He works very well from the body lock, as I was saying. He uses that to get his quick trip takedowns, and will drop immediately to a single leg if he's kind of getting resistance on the feet with that, and he will power through until he gets it. He does well to kind of change his angles with that as well and drive through in the singles, so he'll move around a little bit. A lot of the kind of little things that get the takedowns in high level MMA, he does very, very well. On top, he is exceptional. A lot of kind of pit apart shots, very smothering once he gets down there. He hits you with small shots, as I said, very content to work. And he's got in the guard, throws some elbows, throws some big looping punches down in there, but does a very good job scrambling to advantageous positions once he gets the opportunity to do so. Like kind of, I think the back mount was one I saw a little bit. If Johnson gives him the opportunity in general, whatever position he's in, he will try and look to move to that next position. Very good at maintaining control, just overall very, very good on the ground. And he wears his opponents out, and that's how he gets his finishes. I think he could finish this fight as well, but my decision, I think Johnson's a tough guy. It's going to be Tybura via decision. Looking forward to seeing this guy in the UFC though, and have done for a long time. Legitimate, could be a contender in a couple of years to come. Staying in the heavyweight division, we have Francis Ngannou against Curtis Blaydes. Ngannou coming to the UFC and just blasted, I think it was Luis Enrique in Orlando back there. Big guy, kind of like a football player type guy. You can see just how big this dude is. But he's against a guy here who's probably bigger, if not bigger. He'll be around kind of the same size, if not bigger, I should say. And a very good guy himself. I mean, his name is Curtis Blaydes, who's coming in here on short notice. I can't remember the opponent who pulled out. 5-0 record with 5 wins, all via TKO and KO. As I say, Blaydes will enter the UFC with an undefeated 5-0 record. Kind of wins over Alan Crowder, guys that we know in the heavyweight division, not overly great. Beat Lorenzo Hood in his debut, who's a Bellator heavyweight, not overly great. And the rest are kind of guys you don't really want to know. Was a national junior wrestling college champion way back in the day. He stands at 6'4", weighs in, I think he cuts down to 265. But this is the kind of athletes that the UFC are looking for. Big, powerful athletes with he's got credentials behind him. This is the kind of heavyweights the UFC needs. There's not a great deal of tape on him out there, but what I have seen is that he's a great athlete and a very powerful wrestler. He kind of looks like he moves with the dynamism, there we go, of a much smaller kind of fighter, and he has kind of really good abilities to hit suplexes, throw jumping attacks. He has the potential to do what most heavyweight fighters can't do. While his takedown game kind of looks the part, it seems like the rest of his game is really undefined. That may come, he is a young heavyweight. He can throw single strikes very, very cleanly, but his combinations aren't pretty good, and his posture is he's a little bit kind of wooden at times and stuck in there. That may come in the future. It kind of reminds me of kind of Brock Lesnar a little bit. He's not overly technical, but his speed and his brute power and his force is something to really look out for. And he will blast you for power doubles. Like, he will come, and if he comes at you like a juggernaut, you're not stopping this. I don't think he will. How I think the fight goes, I think Ngannou can maybe match him for maybe his speed, potentially his athleticism, his power possibly, and maybe his potential. But his biggest weakness is his wrestling, where Blaydes he'll smoke him in that aspect of that fight. He will drive for the takedowns, as I said, and I think he will get them. I don't think it's hard to see Ngannou getting put in his back and getting beaten up really badly there. We've seen Blaydes' last fight, he did that in like double Donkey Kong fist, was just beating the guy up. If Blaydes decides to stand and trade, I think he could get hurt in the feet by Ngannou. He is a heavyweight, but I think he'll be at a disadvantage, but given his talents, I think he's got, and he could definitely catch Ngannou and knock him out himself. My pick is going to be Curtis Blaydes via TKO, maybe towards the end of round number 2, early round number 3, so it's going to be Blaydes there. Co-main event, we have Gabriel Gonzaga against Derrick Lewis. Gabriel Gonzaga, his last fight, Konstantina Rokin, I sat and watched that fight again, really wish I didn't, was horrific. But he had to do what he had to do because he lost 3 straight, coming off that loss to Krokop. Derrick Lewis, on the other hand, coming off that win, Victor Pesta, I thought he looked pretty impressive against. And in his last UFC fight, he knocked out Damian Grabowski in the first round, just came out and just blasted the SHIT out of Grabowski. I think that Gabriel Gonzaga is done, but if this fight goes past round 1, then it's all Gabriel Gonzaga. I just think that Derrick Lewis is going to catch him. He's going to come out aggressive, and I don't think that Gonzaga's chin's there anymore. I said that against Rokin and got made to look a fool. Could happen again here, but I'm going to go Derrick Lewis via knockout in round number 1. And the main event of the night, we have Big Ben Rothwell against Junior Dos Santos, the former UFC heavyweight champion. Interesting fight this when it got put together. I mean, nobody's really streaking as much in the UFC heavyweight division as Ben Rothwell is at the minute, and he's legitimately a nice guy to go along with it. I became a fan of his once I met him in Dublin because he's so great with the fans. I was a fan beforehand, but you kind of keep your distance from him. He's a little bit out there, but a thoroughly nice guy who I really hope goes on and does very well in the UFC. Last 4 wins over Brandon Vera via TKO. Alistair Overeem just knocked him out, which is always good. And then the go-go choke over Matt Mitrione was pretty impressive. It was a mistake by Mitrione going in for that takedown but he caught Josh Barnett with it. Now Josh Barnett is a grappling whiz, and he has been for years. Everybody knows that. I don't think anybody has submitted Josh Barnett. Maybe Dean Lister back in the day in a jiu-jitsu tournament. I can't remember. Maybe he did the vice versa. But he caught Josh Barnett in that second round back in New Jersey. And it was pretty good to see. And he hides it, he disguises it very well. Once he gets a grasp, you will go to sleep with it. And you will be tapping out. Junior Dos Santos, potentially he's on his way out of the UFC. He's taken a lot of damage. Those Kane rematches after he won the title really knocked him for 6. Took a lot of damage. I mean, I watched those fights and a lot of damage was taken for that guy. Come off that Cain Velasquez loss, spin kick knockout of Marcin, which was pretty incredible to see. Went back against Cain and took another beating. Beat Stipe Miocic, which was a little bit iffy. I gave it for Dos Santos 3-2, but then he got knocked out by Alistair Overeem. And if his chin is starting to go now, then facing somebody with Rothwell's, I think he's got the overall length over him. Dos Santos will have the speed, but I think that just overall, Ben Rothwell is the more dangerous fighter. But see, Dos Santos does have those crisp techniques, and he has been the 5 rounds. He has been in the wars. I just think that it's Ben Rothwell's time at the minute, and it's hard to really pick against him. I think I have picked against him in the past. I'm not going to do it this time. I'm going to pick Ben Rothwell via submission in round number 3. So that is my picks there for UFC Zagreb. I'll be back for UFC on Fox 19. Khabib Nurmagomedov makes his return to the UFC as he faces Tony Ferguson. A really fun looking card. That will be out next week. Please come and follow me on Twitter, WillMartin7MMA. Follow all the guys, watch all their videos that I will post down below here. I will put my DraftKings picks, I will put my timestamp, so if there's a certain fight you want me to talk about, you can go straight to it. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Tell a friend, share. Thank you very much.